It's the legend himself, Jimmy Dore, political commentator, comedian, host of the Jimmy Dore Show, and one day, I hope, a candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. I tried my best to get him to run last time, but he declined. Maybe he saw what was coming. Jimmy, welcome back after too long to the show. Let me get straight into it, given the hour. The appearance of Ghislaine Maxwell in the week has excited even me to question whether that was really her. No matter how much prison pasta she's been feasting on, it wouldn't have changed the shape of her nose, the length of her nose, the space between her eyes. Now, it would have seemed like an insane question for me to ask and you to answer only a few short months ago. But now we know what we know about the Epstein affair. Anything's possible, isn't it?
100% anything's possible, including Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, is very much possible. In fact, it seems probable that he's alive. As my co-host Kurt Metzger says, if Jeffrey Epstein's dead, that means he worked for the Mossad. But if he's alive, that means the Mossad worked for him and he worked for the Rothschilds, which we know. He got appointed to the Trilateral Commission when he was like 29 years old. And we all know that he's a mediocre mind. He's not a brilliant financial guy that people made him out to be. And the picture, so we now know also that there was I think it was a Reddit post, and the Reddit post is tied directly back to a guard at the prison where Epstein was being held. And he said that they came and took him out the night before his death, that they sent a van, and the van didn't have any of the paperwork. You normally have a transport van, and the transport van never comes on a weekend. And so so this has been tracked directly behind him, directly to that guard. Also, we know the video surveillance has big gaps in it, and you can see people walking up, going to his cell. So also, if you look at, people have done this comparison of the picture of Jeffrey Epstein that's supposedly Jeffrey Epstein dead and the picture of Jeffrey Epstein alive, and it doesn't match up. His nose doesn't match up. His earlobes don't match up. So is it very possible that he's alive? Yes, it's very possible that he's alive, and it's very possible that Ghislaine is not in prison. I immediately suspected that. Like, well, how do we know she's in prison? How do we know how long she's in prison? So, there's been no explanation or given for why she was transferred to the minimum security prison that she was transferred to, which she's not supposed to be. So again, there's nothing that you can imagine that isn't possible.
Well, I cited one. Of course, there are thousands, and I haven't read them all, but I've read more than most people have. But the one that grabbed me just this day was one of the top princes of the international banking system is thanking Epstein in writing for the Snow White experience that Epstein had just provided him. Snow White, of course, story of a very young girl. And then we see the receipts for a Snow White costume for a young girl that Jeffrey Epstein had purchased, leaving any rational person to wonder darkly, where is the Snow White? What happened to the Snow White for whom that Snow White costume was bought? And why was a prince of J.P. Morgan and Barclays Bank thanking Epstein for the Snow White experience? I mean, maybe he just liked Disney. Maybe he just loved the movie. Maybe he's like one of these Rocky Horror Show people that, likes to get dressed up to get into the experience. But maybe it's something very much darker than that.
Sounds like it. I also would like to know what they mean every time you see pizza and grape soda. That obviously doesn't mean pizza and grape soda. And used to be called a crazy person if you questioned why that those two terms kept showing up in the Podesta emails. You were considered a crazy person, and of course now here they are showing up in the Epstein emails. But the thing that's interesting to me, or probably the most frustrating thing to me, is that in the United States, no one is getting in trouble for this stuff. There's nobody has to step down. The Commerce Secretary is caught telling an elaborate lie about not knowing Jeffrey Epstein. And of course, then it shows up that not only did he know Jeffrey Epstein and hang out with Jeffrey Epstein, he actually was on his island, brought his kids to the island, and then also was in business with him. So that's the current Commerce Secretary, who, by the way, lived next door to Jeffrey Epstein. And so there's nobody here in the United States that's had to step down from their position or been fired. It's happening in other parts of the world, Europe, even I think Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates, maybe. And but so other people are getting in trouble, but it doesn't seem like anybody, there's no consequences. People might get a little embarrassed, like Bill Gates, but there's nothing going to happen to Bill Gates. There's nothing going to happen to the people that are in the files in the United States anyway. And I find that maddening.
Well, the casualty rate is definitely growing elsewhere. The former prime minister, the immediate past prime minister of Norway, at the top of the Norwegian political Christmas tree for decades, is now under arrest this evening. He was taken away by police on corruption charges directly relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Peter Mandelson, our erstwhile ambassador, a former deputy prime minister in Britain, and a cabinet minister in 3 governments, sacked from 2 of them, but inexplicably reinstated to the 3rd, and then by a 4th, given the position of ambassador to Washington. He's in very serious trouble now. He has just been caught lying about the purchase of a £2 million apartment in Rio de Janeiro, which he said he had no recollection of. It's the kind of thing you can easily forget, right, Jimmy? And then the Financial Times turned up the documents with his signature on them, with a Cayman Islands company arranging the financing of the purchase of a £2 million apartment in Rio that he had no recollection of. And that's only the half of it. Insider trading, giving Epstein advance notice of market-sensitive information that came to him as a government minister, and so on. He's definitely heading for jail. So there's a prime minister and a deputy prime minister going to prison. Princes and princesses of the royal houses of Europe, countesses. I mean, their crowns are falling off them, Jimmy. So why are the American people not demanding some condign punishment of their Epstein class?
I think because we're in the end stage republic and our country's crumbling from corruption. Donald, no kidding. I mean, nobody's ever had to pay a price for anything. Nobody paid a price for 9/11. Nobody paid a price. Now we know that Building 7 was imploded and we were lied to, that they blew that building up. That didn't fall down because of planes. Nobody paid a price for that. They ordered a torture program at the top of government after 9/11 that was worldwide. Barack Obama knew about it. It was the only person who went to jail for ordering a worldwide torture program was the guy who disclosed it, the guy who uncovered it from the CIA, John Kiriakou. So nobody, and Barack Obama famously said all those torture crimes happened in the past, and he was looking towards the future. I don't know if anybody ever told him, but all crimes happen in the past. That's where they all happen. And anyway, so he didn't prosecute anybody. So nobody went to jail for 9/11. Nobody went to jail for the the stock market crash in 2008. Nobody went to jail for ordering a torture program. Nobody went to jail for what we did to Libya, which was illegal. Nobody went to jail for the illegal war in that killed 1 million people in Iraq. Nobody's going to war for funding Al Qaeda in Syria. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody gets in trouble for anything in the United States. It's complete a two-tier justice system, and the connected, wealthy elite don't go to jail. That's just the way it is. And nobody in America, like, because they own the media, right? So because Zionists also control the corporate media in the United States, the corporate media is not going to create a groundswell. They're not going to create momentum for people to get arrested or lose their job, because they've been downplaying this Epstein files thing forever. They've been downplaying Epstein files, everything at the behest of Israel, right? And so I think that's a big reason why nothing's happening here. But it's considered anti-Semitic for me to say that Zionists control our media, but so be it. The Zionists do control our media. Is definitely deferential to the Zionist narrative and to Israel.
Well, Jimmy, they certainly control the so-called legacy media, but it's crashing and burning. They've put a fortune into CBS, appointing pro-Israel stooges, and their audience is disappearing like snow in a thaw. Jimmy Dore gets a bigger audience than Barry Weiss. In fact, George Galloway gets a bigger audience, and I'm not even American, than Barry Weiss. Jimmy Dore's show is outperforming most shows on American mainstream media. And Joe Rogan, of course, bigger than both of us put together. Far, far more people are paying attention to independent media now than to the official media. So we ought to be able to see a change begin, oughtn't we?
I would hope so. That's my wish, my hope. But of course, it turns out there's a lot of people in independent media. So, so the Zionists and the corporations and the war machine, they've captured the legacy media, the corporate media. Why would they stop there? Why wouldn't they go after independent media, which is exactly what they've done? And so they've co-opted at least half the independent media, if not more, that are on the payroll of a Zionist or on the payroll of a political organization or the military industrial complex or whoever it is. And they're doing the bidding of the establishment, the oligarchs, just like the legacy media does. And so that's kind of that's certainly slowing progress. I think the only thing that's going to change things for the better in the United States is a real revolution. I don't know how that's going to show up, but whether it be nonviolent or whether it be violent. Our country was founded on a violent revolution. When the government got the last time the government got this unresponsive to its electorate and its citizens, George Washington picked up a gun and started shooting his oppressors. So I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that's what happened. So we need some kind of a revolution in the United States. Unfortunately, independent media, I think it's making a big mark and it's putting pressure on people, but it's just not the thing that's going to move the needle here in the United States to a point that we need it to be moved to.
Now, right this evening, the people in Iran are braced for a major war, which could turn out to be a real catastrophic, even intercontinental war, certainly across the whole of the Middle East. The Iranian people believe, Professor Marandi, known to both of us, effectively left a kill switch on social media this evening. He said, if the Epstein regime attacks us, I will continue to broadcast if I can stay online. But if I am incapacitated, if I'm killed, and he then gave another name of one of his colleagues, try following him. And if he's incapacitated, here's somebody else. That's the stage we're at. Is Donald Trump really going to do this? Or was Benjamin Netanyahu disappointed in his visit, his 7th visit to Washington in just over a year?
Well, if past his prologue, Donald Trump is going to do whatever Benjamin Netanyahu and his Zionist donors like Miriam Edelson want him to do. I also think that, there's still 3 million files that have not been released. And I'm sure Israel knows about any of the compromising material that on Donald Trump that would be in there. I'm sure they have copies of it. And a lot of people said that when they released the birthday card that Donald Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein, that got released through, I think, the New York Times. And people are like, well, who do you think leaked it to the New York Times? So people were speculating that was Israel, and they were upset that Donald Trump wasn't bombing enough for them, and that he wouldn't go full out war with Iran, and that was their way to kind of pressure him. And so, they've already pressured him into bombing Iran, the bombing Yemen. They're already pressured into welcoming a guy who was the head chopper at Al Qaeda in Syria to the White House. Now we're in bed with them, with Al Qaeda for legit, for real. As we still have the Guantanamo torture prison open, the United States does. We're welcoming, which is supposed to be filled with terrorists. We're welcoming the head terrorist from Syria. So my point is that Donald Trump will do anything that he's told to do. And here's an interesting thing. He almost brags that Miriam Edelson gave him a couple of $100 million for his campaign. And he tells these stories about how the Adelsons would always pester him and come to the White House. And they would always want something else. And then he would give it to him. He even brags that he gave him the Golan Heights. He goes, they didn't even ask for it. I gave it to him. And so I go, even for Donald Trump, that is weird for him to brag about how compromised he is because of money. And I think the only reason he's doing that is to distract everybody from how they really have him compromised. And Israel has him compromised with blackmail. And so he wants everybody to think he's doing all this stuff because of the money. He doesn't. He's not that embarrassed about being bought off money. He's a billionaire. He likes money. He likes transactional activities. And so that's why. So it's so over the top that he literally brags that he's been bought by Miriam Edelson and that she can get whatever she wants out of him, that it's suspect. And so my suspicions is that he's going to do whatever Benjamin Netanyahu wants because they'd have him. Donald Trump is not the boss. Donald Trump has handlers and they have blackmail on him. And so I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that he doesn't go through with this. So Charlie Kirk, I think that was I don't know if people know who Charlie Kirk was, but he was the leader of the Turning Points USA organization, which was credited with getting Donald Trump elected. And Charlie Kirk was I'm told, yelled at Donald Trump not to go to war with Iran. And if he did, it would be a big mistake. And he had also turned against Israel, and then he was killed. So I think they're getting people out of the way, and they're opening a lane for Donald Trump to go in and do war. I think this is the last country on the list that Israel has been wanting the United States to invade and bomb and overthrow. I think we did Iraq, we did Syria, we bombed Yemen, we did Libya. Now Lebanon. They're doing Iran. I think Iran's the last one on the list. So, or maybe the Sudan. And it looks like the Greater Israel Project is about expanding Israel, and that's about taking over parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, all of Gaza and the West Bank, parts of even Egypt. But so they've always wanted to destabilize every country around them, and now they've got it done. So they decapitated Libya. It's a failed state. Iraq, same thing. Syria, the same thing. Now they're going in to do it to Iran. I mean, it's they don't make a secret of it, what's happening and why they're doing these things. And so this is the last war that Israel wants the United States to do for them, and Donald Trump is going to do it for him because he's compromised.
Well, the blowback from it may very well be fatal for many far beyond the theater of conflict. Now, you're on tour. I keep reading these wonderful venues that you're appearing in, Jimmy. How's the tour going? Where are you next?
The tour's going great. We're going to be in Lansing, Michigan, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then we'll be in Houston, Dallas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and Salt Lake City. So that's what's on the schedule right now. Thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate it. And if people, I know it seems hard to joke about this stuff, but I do it. So come out and let's laugh about this stuff, because if you don't laugh, you cry, baby.